It was Monday morning. The kind of morning when everything seems perfectly normal. Until it doesn't. I opened my eyes. And the first thing I noticed was the sound of my stomach. It was not the usual gentle growl of hunger. No. It was more like a lion roaring in the zoo, demanding breakfast immediately. I rolled out of bed and went to the kitchen. The weather outside looked gray. But in my heart, the only storm I cared about was inside my stomach. I opened the fridge. Nothing exciting. A lonely carrot. Half a bottle of milk. And something suspicious wrapped in plastic. That might have been chicken, last month. So, like a true survivor, I turned to my emergency food supply. Instant noodles. That shiny packet of happiness. I boiled the water. Cracked an egg into the pot. Added extra chili. And thought to myself, this is going to be the best breakfast ever. 10 minutes later, I was sitting at the table, slurping noodles like a champion. Every bite felt like victory. The soup was spicy. The noodles were perfect. And I was already planning to brag about this masterpiece to my friends. But then trouble began. At first, it was a little pain. A small warning. I ignored it. After all, no hero abandons his noodles halfway. But by the time I finished the last spoonful, the pain had turned into a full concert. My stomach was not just upset. It was organizing a rock festival inside me. I tried lying down. Didn't help. I tried walking around. Still bad. Finally, I accepted the truth. This was no ordinary noodle problem. This was hospital level. So, with one hand holding my stomach and the other grabbing my jacket, I stepped out of the house. I didn't know it yet. But this was the beginning of one of the strangest days of my life. The moment I stepped outside, the fresh air hit me like a slap. Normally, I would enjoy the morning breeze, maybe even smile at the neighbor's cat. But not today. Today, every step felt like I was carrying a ticking time bomb in my stomach. I thought about walking to the bus stop. But then I remembered, buses in my city are never on time. If I waited, I might end up being the first person in history to have a funeral at a bus station. So, I called a taxi. The driver arrived within 5 minutes. A small miracle. But the moment I sat down, I realized another problem. He was one of those drivers who loves talking.
Good morning.
He said cheerfully.
Where to?
I clutched my stomach and whispered, "Hospital, please."
Hospital. Oh no. You don't look well. What happened?
I wanted to scream, "Just drive." But instead, I politely said, "Just a small stomach issue." Big mistake. That one sentence was like opening the floodgates. He began telling me stories about his own stomach problems. His cousin's stomach problems. His neighbor's stomach problems, and even his dog's stomach problems. Meanwhile, my stomach was having its own conversation. Tick-tock, tick-tock, you'd better hurry. I leaned forward and said gently, "Sir, maybe, could you drive a little faster?"
Oh, of course.
He replied.
But let me just finish this story first.
I couldn't believe it. My life was hanging by a noodle. And he wanted to finish his story. At the next red light, he turned around and said,
You know, hospitals make me nervous. Last time I went, they gave me a bill bigger than my wedding expenses.
I nodded weakly. Honestly, I didn't care about his wedding or his bill. All I cared about was not exploding before reaching the hospital. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the hospital appeared in sight. I almost cried with joy. I even thought about hugging the driver, but then remembered. If I moved too fast, my stomach might declare war immediately. I paid the fare, stumbled out of the taxi, and promised myself two things. First, never eat a giant bowl of noodles again. Second, never get into a talkative taxi when your stomach is about to explode. The sliding doors of the hospital opened with a dramatic whoosh. Like I was entering another world. Inside, the smell of disinfectant hit me first, followed by the sight of a long line of patients waiting at the reception desk. I joined the line, clutching my stomach, trying to look normal, but probably failing. The lady in front of me turned around, glanced at me, and whispered to her husband.
That girl looks like she swallowed a watermelon.
Her husband nodded seriously, like a doctor giving a diagnosis. I wanted to say, "Excuse me, it was just noodles." But I didn't have the energy. Finally, it was my turn at the desk. The nurse smiled politely and asked,
What brings you here today?
I thought carefully this time. I didn't want another comedy show like in the taxi. So I said simply, stomach pain. She nodded, typed something into the computer. Then handed me a small form.
Please fill this out.
I looked at the paper. Name, date of birth, address, easy. But then came the question. Describe your problem. I stared at it for a while. Should I write, stomach pain after noodles? Or, internal war caused by chili overdose? In the end, I just wrote, stomach is angry, short, honest, and to the point. I handed the paper back. The nurse read it, looked at me. And, for the second time that day, a medical professional laughed at me. With my pride slowly dissolving, I went to the waiting area. Chairs were lined up. People sat with tired faces. Each one lost in their own medical drama. Next to me sat an old man with a bandaged hand. He looked at me and said,
Stomach?
I nodded. He raised his bandaged hand proudly and said,
Ladder. I won.
I wasn't sure whether to laugh or cry. He continued,
Don't worry. Doctors here are very kind. They'll fix you up. Then send you a bill that makes you sick again.
Before I could respond, a child sitting across from us sneezed so loudly that everyone jumped. His mother quickly apologized. But the old man leaned over to me and whispered,
See? First noodles, then ladders, now sneezes. We're all doomed.
I tried to laugh, but my stomach protested. Not now. I whispered to it, patting my belly like a baby. The old man saw me and nodded wisely.
Talk to it.
He said.
Stomachs listen.
I wasn't sure if he was joking or serious. But at that point, I was ready to try anything. After waiting what felt like an eternity, a nurse finally called my name.
Room 5.
She said. I followed her, trying not to trip over my own feet or my stomach. The first test was a blood test. I watched as the nurse prepared the needle. I tried to stay calm, thinking about my noodles, the way they danced in my stomach moments ago. She pricked my arm, and it hurt a bit. I winced.
Oh, don't worry.
She said, smiling.
It's just a tiny poke.
I wanted to reply. Tiny? My stomach is staging a revolution. And you call this tiny? Instead, I just nodded. Next came the urine test. I was given a small cup and instructions. Sounds simple, right? Not when your bladder is stage fright shy. After 3 awkward minutes, I finally managed to fill the cup. Then X-ray. I lay on the table, staring at the ceiling tiles, wondering why hospitals always have the most boring patterns in the world. The machine clicked and whirred, and I imagined it taking a snapshot of my soul along with my stomach. Finally, the ultrasound. The technician squirted cold gel on my belly. My stomach shivered in protest. The technician laughed.
You're tense.
She said. I muttered something about noodles. All tests were done. I walked back to the waiting area, feeling like a contestant who survived a reality show called Extreme Hospital Edition. After what seemed like another eternity, the doctor finally appeared. He had a calm face, the kind that could make a nervous patient feel safe. He smiled.
Good news.
He said.
Nothing serious. Just indigestion.
I wanted to hug him, thank him, dance with joy. But I remembered I was in a hospital and decided to just nod gratefully. But, he continued,
You should eat smaller portions. Avoid too much spicy food. And try to relax more.
I nodded again, mentally swearing never to challenge my stomach with a giant bowl of noodles again. I left the hospital with a bag of medicine and a lighter heart. On the way home, I thought about all the people I saw. The old man with the bandaged hand, the talkative taxi driver, the sneezing child. Each one had their own strange story, their own tiny battle. And I realized something important. Life is a bit like a hospital. We all have our waiting times, our unexpected tests, and our little pains. But the most important thing is to face it with humor, patience, and maybe a little humility. When I got home, I made a small bowl of noodles, just enough for survival, and smiled. My stomach grumbled, but this time, I was ready to negotiate peace.